to talk about the River Collective. Um, I would like to give you a quick introduction into the River Collective, meaning the organization, but especially also really focusing on this educational program called Students for Rivers Camp and the projects that can arrive or be derived from these educational camps. And then, yeah, I'm not the only one from the River Collective today here. So David, Barbara, and Camille are all also engaged in the River Collective and will also quickly share at the end their personal stories, how they came along. Yeah, then we will also share some announcements, and we are also, of course, super curious to hear your questions and to discuss a bit. Um, how maybe we have similarities also with your program and how maybe those differ. I would like to start with this text and like to read it out because we worked on this quite for some time to get our mission statement right. And when we talk about the River Collective, we talk about this statement that we love and appreciate healthy, free-flowing rivers and the diverse values they provide. We foster a lasting network of passionate river advocates through creating spaces and experiences for exchange, mutual learning, and local action. This is achieved by providing place-based outdoor education, citizen science, and recreational events that bring together diverse communities and disciplines. Let's focus on the core of this place-based outdoor education. So the Students for Rivers camps can be understood as some 1 to 2 week long summer schools that are happening always on a specific river. And those camps are especially for university students from different disciplines. So here you just see some examples. So for example, my background is in geography, so I was joining, but there were also other people joining that have a different background, like political sciences, biology, anthropology, that all have somehow a different perspective on what a river actually could mean. Further, a core aims of the Students for Rivers Camp is to bridge also like the scientific perspectives that mostly also students gain from universities with perspectives from practice. So this could, for example, be a local NGO, and locals, meaning local communities that are also partially co-organizing these camps and partially providing inputs and having dialogue. And so the idea is that through this interaction, we support improved system thinking for students through this transdisciplinary learning. We have this river experience, so basically spending the whole week next to the river or on the river through rafting, kayaking, and so on to really connect to nature and to inspire students to come up with their own ideas for river protection, to foster social environmental engagement, and by spending time together in person, but also creating lasting connections afterwards, we aim to build community. Here you can see some pictures how this can look like. So, for example, like the always fun part of a river experience, like rafting, for example. These camps are always involving camping, so really spending the whole time in nature. Also allowing for like these informal exchanges among students, but among as well students and, for example, workshop facilitators or lecturers. And on the top right, you can also see an example of a workshop, which was in this case participatory mapping to understand like this river as a socio-ecological system. And to also provide you a bit more a conceptual foundation of this idea of the Students for Rivers camp, it follows kind of 5 questions. First, most important is, as I said, it's always happening at different rivers. So we are really trying to, at least within this week, zoom into a specific context, into a specific local river context. Where are we? Then, at the beginning of this summer school, the main question is, what is a river? So there you can imagine, for example, inputs from biology, understanding the different species that are having like this, yeah, that are living in or next to the river. But also you can understand about it, like for example, inputs from anthropologists or sociologists to also see the different values that rivers have. Then we move forward to this why to protect a river. So we see and learn about the current challenges that rivers are facing, the degradation, especially the biodiversity decline. And then we also learn how to protect the river through especially engagement with people from practice, for example, conservationists. And then we can see that especially these three questions are also following this concept of different types of generating different types of knowledge, which can be understood as system knowledge, target knowledge, and transformation knowledge, or which is also a bit in alignment with these three horizon concepts. But I don't want to dive too much into this theoretical idea, but more focus on the last question, how to engage. And that's actually, I would say, the most interesting one, because we really want that participants are engaged or are becoming engaged in river actions. And those river actions can have very different shapes. We see it soon. Here we can just see at which places the last camps took place. So I said I joined 2019. This was actually the first camp at the Socha in Slovenia. Then there was COVID, so we needed to, or like the organizers needed to find a way around. So they did a SSC home, which was actually pretty cool to experience your own local home river. And then the next camp was at Valbona, a river in Albania, in northern Albania. It's Austria. That's where Barbara joined, who is also here today. Dart in the UK, Neretva in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the last camp was actually outside of Europe. It was at the Marañón, a river in Peru. And from these camps, several projects evolved, and we call them ripple projects. And these can, for example, be on the one hand, as you said, it's like a student for student organization to help students to organize their own Students for Rivers camp with a mentoring scheme by former organizers. So this is a bit like more the big commitment project, but then you have also other projects of engagement which are more like a lower barrier, for example, organizing a BioBlitz, so like a could be like an excursion for a day where you go out with your smartphone, like making observations of, for example, plants and other species. Then we also have participatory mapping workshops, which is a nice way because on the one hand, you bring people together to discuss a river system, again, from different perspectives. And in addition, these mapping workshops often result in like an illustrative map, which is a nice, like it has really an impact because you have something physically showing a map. But Barbara will tell more about this. And there are other projects like river podcasts, walks, and actually also Flussforschen. I can show this in a second. Yeah, here again, we see some possibilities for students to engage, like joining conferences, organizing webinars, organizing film screenings, but also other bigger projects. For example, this Flussforschen, it's like a science communication research project aiming to for like river education with school kids. And that's also something we are engaged with. home river bioblitz. It's this bioblitz globally. Yeah. And what is also very important, like this impact beyond the camp, or like especially creating this community, because especially in like early career stage, it is so important to have a network of peers. And for this, we are aiming, or like we are having currently this. I tried, like it was the first time I tried an organizational figure of ours, so I'm happy for feedback. But actually, you can understand the River Collective as a non-profit organization consisting of, first of all, here on the right side, like the founders that initiated this, or like that had the idea and did the first camps. Now the core team, where I'm part of, with 5 other people, which is kind of like the engine to make sure that, for example, we are mentoring the next SSC organizer. So the SSC is standing for Students for Rivers Camps. We are in exchange with these Ripple project leads. And we are also we are like a members-based nonprofit organization. Exactly. And now I would like to dive into the 3 inputs. First of all, David is going to present a bit his story of how he came to the River Collective, or how he actually brought the River Collective to life, I would say.
So hi everyone, and thanks Franzi for this introductory part first. So I'm David Farot. I'm currently a postdoctoral researcher at the Leibniz Institute of Freshwater Ecology and Inland Fisheries in Berlin, in Germany. And I'm now a retired River Collective organizer. But I've been in 2019. I joined the team organizing the first SRC, and then we organized 4 more. And then we, all of the team 2 years ago, decided to step back a bit and just act in an advisory supporting role and just give space to new energies to take over and bring their own ideas. In the next few minutes, I would just like to share with you a bit my own, first of all, how this whole journey started with the River Collective and the Students for Rivers Camp, and then give you a bit of an insights into how this affected myself as a scientist and my own journey as a scientist. If you can move on to... Yeah, thanks. We're going back to 2016, 2017, and here meet Vera Nok. Vera Nok back then was a student in civic engineering in the Netherlands. She was finishing a master's at the Technical University of Delft. She still is a very keen, passionate kayaker, and through kayaking and her own exploration, she fell in love with the Balkans. If you're familiar with Europe and this part of Europe, the Balkans is, you can see it here on the map, this part colored, it's a mountain range that extends from Slovenia down to Greece. With the Balkans, we refer to all the countries around this mountain range. So Slovenia, Romania in the north, down to Greece. And this is a biodiversity hotspot in Europe. It's an intersection between the central part of Europe and the Mediterranean. There's many native species. And when it comes to rivers, the most beautiful rivers in Europe are in this area. The most pristine rivers are still found in this area, like the Vjosa that Franzi mentioned, that she had the joy to explore during her bachelor and master studies. And then Socha is very well known in Europe for kayaking, and then many other rivers like Teneriffa. And she was looking for an opportunity to do her research for her master's in one of these rivers, because she also learned, if you can move to the next slide, she also learned that while the most beautiful rivers are in this region, also there's a huge hydropower development boom going on in these areas, with more than 3,000 new small and large hydropower dams in constructions and planned. And so she just wanted to support her own research, doing a thesis. Some of the local communities, the local efforts going on in this area to protect some rivers. She started talking with professors in her department, but she was highly discouraged from doing this. A master thesis in Europe typically lasts 6 months. It's a very short time to go into an unexplored area that is very data poor. The Balkans, many of the countries in the Balkan used to be under communist regimes, so there is potentially decent amount of data being collected until the 90s, when all these regimes then fall. And then it took them a while to rebuild the countries and set up new monitoring systems. So there's a lot of so many rivers for which there is almost no data. And so she was just discouraged from doing so. So she ended up coming to Italy, where I was doing my PhD at the time at the University of Trento, and did a master thesis there. But she finished, but this frustration of not being able to actually do something she was passionate about stayed with her. And so she started having this idea of like what can she do personally to change the situation. If you can go to the next slide. And so she started talking to people. She came to me, she approached some other people, and she formed a group, 6 people that ended up organizing the first SRC in Slovenia at the Socha. So we came together, and in 2019, the first RC was born out of this frustration a bit. So what we wanted to create, and this is what Franzi already told you a bit about, was to basically create. Can you go to the next slide, please? Was basically to create a safe space, so where we could bring students together. We gathered around 30 students from all over Europe, sit them together in an informal setting in a safe space by the river, and giving them opportunity to sit together with experts, with locals, sit by a bonfire, discuss, brainstorm, and discuss what their role as students, what the role of scientists can be within this activism that was going on in the Balkans, which was at the beginning our main focus, just because it was such an exciting area to be in when it came to river protection, and also try to figure out how we could create, and if we could create, opportunities for students to engage. I'm assuming that most of the people present here today are ecologists or come from a field that's ecologically based. So often, if a student is studying ecology, the path towards a career that can help support nature, rivers, can be quite straightforward in a way. There is many careers that come out of that are open for ecologists. But if you think of, for example, someone studying law or someone from the humanities or an artist, this might be not as straightforward. For example, for myself, I studied physics in my undergrad, and only through different experience I had in my life, I started exploring rivers, and finally I became a river scientist. So this was just a way to bring all these people together and kind of figure out together how we could create more opportunities for people to actually to engage with things they cared about with rivers and protect them. If you can go to the next slide, Franzi. Yeah, just to conclude, I would like to just give you a bit of an insights into, like I said before, I retired a bit from the River Collective. I'm now only very happily supporting the new generation taking over with the different projects they have, with experience that we've collected over the years. But I would just like to share a bit how this affected myself as a scientist, and why I'm still very happily supporting the River Collective and being part of it. First of all, expose myself to so many new ideas that I probably never would have been exposed to. I do research in eco-hydraulics, so I work on a daily basis with ecologists, with engineers, and this is usually what I'm exposed to. But learning, for example, that games can be used as a way to discuss how conflict arises in river management and how this conflict can be solved is very powerful. Learning how theater, how arts can be used to tell stories, to engage people with specific problems in rivers and way of living rivers. Sitting together around a table with a map in front and hearing people sharing this can be a very powerful tool to have people sharing their own stories, their own experiences with rivers, but also just being in a river, kayaking a river, being part of the river flow for a bit. Just gave me this, also open up gave me different ways of experiencing, taught me about different ways of experiencing rivers, and also learning as a scientist from rivers and how river works. Through all this journey, and it's something it's an ongoing process. I've also had a lot of opportunities to reflect on my own role as a scientist within river conservation. I would have, for example, never called myself an activist before starting this experience, because I always thought of, if I want to become a scientist, I need to disengage from the system I'm working. I need to be as unemotional as possible. But I've learned that there are so many ways to actually engage while still being a scientist and respecting all the fundamental rules of science. And it also gave me a sense of community that, while I obviously have through my own science and the networks I created in science, being surrounded by passionate young people that come together and bring so much energy, that want to dedicate their life, or at least a short period of their life, towards solving some problems, it can be very powerful. That's something that I'm definitely taking with me, and that's why I still take any opportunity I have to join any event that the River Collective organizes. But yeah, enough about me. I'd now pass on the microphone to Barbara, so you can also hear a bit about the younger generation and their own experiences.
Thanks, David. Hello. Yeah, I'm Barbara. I am from Austria. I'm a PhD student in river ecology. But when I got to know the River Collective, I actually still was a master student and met Franzi at the Fjosse River. So you heard from it already before, this really nice Albanian river. And I know also from some colleagues, I heard from the River Collective, but I really never really got involved in it. Franziska then convinced me to join the Students' River Camp in Austria and at the Ötz. And you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so there the Ötztaler Ache is the river there, is threatened by hydropower plant extension plants from the big hydropower company in Austria. We talked a lot about these plans, and there was also the idea of doing this participatory mapping about these extension plans. So he has written Kaunertal, that's one of the valleys that's also involved, and the project is named after this. So in the end, we were 5 motivated people that invited people that somehow live in this area, work there, research there, to get to know all their thoughts about the hydropower extension plants. And actually these plants would involve extracting water from a glacial river and flooding of one of a few Tyrolean left valleys that are still in a natural and good condition. And so on the left side, actually, you can see this team. On the right side, you can see some people that we invited. What they did is, just write on the map what they think is there, what is important, what is nice nature there, what is threatened. And in the end, we had an illustrator that all these thoughts of the people, so there were also kayakers and so on, made a nice map out of it. When you go to the next slide, you actually can see this map. So yeah, and what was the aim was for us to have a low-key illustration tool for teaching people what's actually going on, what want to do, what will be threatened by it, what will change. And yeah, it's a lot to explore. Yeah, what's going on there. And we had the front side is this big picture, and at the back we had some more explanation for people that were more interested. And so we printed this in A1 and tried to distribute it afterwards in the whole region. So we asked teachers to bring it actually to school. What also worked out. So to use it for teaching, we hang it in university, in public spaces. Just really try to get it under the people. And it's really fun now. Sometimes students coming and are like, oh, actually I have this map in my flat. So what is very nice. And if you go one more. Okay. Yeah, so you can see here actually picture in the flat. We have it hanging in windows. On the left top, actually, we brought it to the valley that is threatened, or we bring it to whenever there's events about this extension plan. So like on the bottom, there was a festival where we also just try to distribute it to people. So we just bring them and people actually then come, oh, can we have one? Do you have one? And yeah, we give them to the people. And we also had an artist invited to do this wall painting at the park in Innsbruck. So Innsbruck is the major city next to this Wallis. So I think it was a real success and interesting to meet people from various that are somehow involved in this project and fighting against it. And yeah, we still connected the people that we organized this, and also now part of us is team of organizing another event. I think we will talk about it in the end. They will Turnu River Week. So yeah, for me this was a really nice experience to meet various people and to be actively get involved in protecting rivers. And I really still always when Franziska asks me if I'm up to helping somehow, I'm really happy to do this and to meet people. And I think with this, I give it to Camille.
Thank you, Barbara. So I'm going to present myself. I'm part of the newest generation. So I think some has
Yeah, somebody has some background noise. Sounds like a television or radio. Let me see if I can mute people here. 1 minute here. Tools, host tools. Participants. If anybody can hear that radio in the background, if you can turn off your sound, that would be great. Let's see here. Let's see here. It seems to have gone away. Okay, thanks. Thank you, whoever that was. Sorry, Cami.
So I joined the River Collective later than Franzi and David and Barbara. I joined this summer. I was in my last year of a master's degree in the UK. And I'm an energy and sustainability engineer. And I did most of my studies in Switzerland and in the UK at the University of Sheffield. And then I was also studying physics in EPFL in Switzerland. And I was part of river conservation projects with my university as well, and part of the conservation society of the university. And so I was aware of river projects and projects involving science and art, because the river projects I was taking part of in Sheffield, they were also around the idea of connecting different backgrounds of people, so having scientists and artists work together to protect rivers. And so we were hosting public art exhibitions around rivers, using river debris and things we found in the rivers to make art. And so that's also how I was really motivated to join the Students for Rivers camp in last summer, because it's one of the only organizations that I found that actually combine different backgrounds together and make people work on the same project from different perspectives. And also bringing students in the river, so people really feel the river and get to know the river without just being from the outside and far away from the problems. They actually see it through their own eyes, and it's I think it's one of the most efficient ways to make people really care about a subject, is to put them in the environment and let them see for themselves. And so, Francie, can you change the slide, please? And so last summer, I joined the Students for River camp in Peru, in the Marañón River. Could you change the next slide? I have some nice photos of the trip. And so we had a lot of different students with different backgrounds. We had the student on the top left that was doing a project on insects that were present in the area of the Marañón River. And then we had different people working on more on the social side of the issue with the river, and then people working more on the scientific side of it. And then we also did a film projection in one of the villages in Peru, and also took part in conferences presenting our projects to locals and having them also getting their input on the problems. So working together with locals and not just being from Europe and then coming into their countries and being like, oh, this is the issue. We actually had most of the students that were Peruvian, and also interacted a lot with communities and villages that were most involved with the river as a whole. And that trip was one of the most inspiring trips I think I've ever been part of, because of the people that, first of all, the people from the River Collective, people like Vera and Francie, and also the experts that took part. I think it showed me how people actually care about nature and actually put projects in place to protect rivers, because I come from a background of engineering where how do I say that, in university, so I was studying sustainability and renewable energies, but I was always taught that hydropower is the most efficient and the most sustainable source of energy. And I think realizing that that isn't my definition of what a sustainable source of energy is, seeing that, for example, the building of dams really destroys ecosystems for maybe 50 or maximum 100 years of energy, isn't what I call sustainable. So that also made me rethink my whole degree and what I was being taught in university. And after the Student for River camp in Peru, I wanted to take part more into the River Collective and help organize the next camp. So that's what I'm doing right now with the next camp that's happening in South America in September. It's going to be in Colombia. Francie, if you skip to the next slide. And so it will be happening on the Samana River in the region of Antioquia. And this river is the last river, free-flowing river of the region. All the other rivers around are already dammed. And this one is the only one that's been surviving because it's less populated around it. And also with the conflict history of this river, it wasn't the best area to build dams. But right now, there are less and less conflicts, so people feel more comfortable starting projects like that, and locals are having a difficult time continuing to protect this river, and so they really need international support for the river. And so we're organizing this camp in September 2026. And we're going to have 14 students, or maybe 16, we're not sure yet. And they're going to go on a 2 weeks expedition on the river with rafts and meeting local communities and having an organizing project. So it will be the students themselves that will work on the projects and that will decide what projects are the most efficient to protect the river. And then we're going to have mentors and experts that are going to guide the students. That's the concept of the students for Rivers Camp. We always have a mentoring team but a lot of freedom from the students themselves to decide what they want to work on. And so we're going to have 3 different teams. One that's more going to be focused on the media side of the problem because it needs a lot of international coverage. And we're going to have a science team that's going to work on just the ecosystem and research, because this river is incredibly biodiverse. I think it was a few years ago, one of the people that work on this river decided to do a 1-day field trip to do research. And so it was only 1 day, and in 1 day they discovered 13 new plant species. And so there's a lot of potential to discover new species of plants and animals as well. And the last team is going to be more on the legal side, because this river doesn't have, well, in Colombia, there's no legal protection for rivers. And so rights of rivers is a huge potential subject that could have a huge impact, not only on this river, but also in the whole country in general. And so, yeah, it's really exciting. I think this camp can have a huge impact on this river and also in Colombia in general. So yeah, we just opened applications for students. So that includes bachelor's, master's, and PhD students. So I'll send the link in the group chat as well. And also we're always looking for collaborators and sponsors. So I'll also put my email if you want to contact me. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think Francie is continuing the presentation. I'm not sure.
We still have Francie here. I think you're muted, Francie.
I'm not sure if she's still here. Well, I guess she is because she's
Yeah.
okay. Oh, well, I can continue if you want.
Wait. Does
Oh,
it
there you
have-
go. You're good now.
Sorry. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
No worries. I was actively listening, and I was just thinking maybe people get confused now that there's this SSC Samana coming around, but also in the invitation for the meeting, there was something about SSC Tayamento, because actually this year is the first year that we are having two organizing teams. So two Students for Rivers camps are going to take place. And that's basically mostly it, what I wanted to say at the end. So we can share the links in the chat that the SSC Tagliamento, which is in Italy, is happening in mid of July, I think second week of July. And the applications are open for students. And so as you hear it from Cami, the SSC Samana is also having the application window open. And in general, if we caught your curiosity and attention, there would be the option to sign up for a newsletter to stay updated. We have like all the social media, mostly Instagram, also a bit of LinkedIn. And of course, if you also think of a step further for collaboration or any other engagement, you could become a member or write us if you have an idea. Yes. I want to say once more, thank you for the invitation. It's super nice to have the opportunity to present our network. Yeah, thank you, James.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for all of you for coming and sharing. Maybe we have a few minutes for questions. Very inspiring work. I bet there's a few questions out there. Anybody have questions for the River Collective team? So I have kind of a oh yeah oh John, that was just waving goodbye. These are one of the things that I find really fascinating about these is like, so, I know some of the folks in the audience here are professors. And so, we aspire to doing the kinds of things that you guys are doing with our students for credit for at universities. And yet your participants are doing it not for academic credit. I mean, obviously, David did a great job of kind of sharing all of these benefits that the participants get. But I'm curious. I guess if you're because as students are participating in this, does it advance their studies in any way, or is it really kind of something that they're doing as a passion on the side? Or complementing, I guess, their academics, but not necessarily they're not getting academic credit for it, or it doesn't plug into their degree programs in any way. Is that correct? Anybody from the collective team wanna? Oh, cannot unmute again. Everybody, I wonder if I have somehow set this up so that people cannot. Can anybody? Cause Andy, can you unmute yourself? Just out of curiosity. Nobody can unmute themselves.
Okay.
Huh. Oh,
I bet when when there was that talk before,
yeah.
let
I
me see if we
wonder.
can
Let's just see here.
participants. I could ask to unmute everybody.
Like
Okay.
Francie, I tried to there. Okay, so
Yeah.
okay. Let me just unplug
Yes.
the.
Yeah, sorry, I felt very
Yeah. I
not
think it's
so
on I think
polite
it's
to
on
not
our end.
answer.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just kind of asking about the academic. So it's not really part of an academic program. It's really something that people are pursuing because they're passionate about it, even though it might complement their academics.
Yeah, exactly. So, in this case of the Students for Rivers Camp, as this is targeted at students from different universities, different countries, um, I'm actually not sure how to set this up so that it
Hmm.
can have credits, like, or that it will definitely have credits, but the students individually can then show like the certificate of participation. And then mostly, like, at least in my case, I could gain credits for it. But I guess this is then on the table of the different study program offices and so on.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess but it seems like you're doing just great without it. So I guess, like, is there, that is there would there be value as students who are participating in the program, is it even necessary? Because when we do that, it adds, so like if we teach it as a class, it adds tuition costs, and in some ways it makes it more expensive. But then the benefit would be that they get academic credits that help them get their bachelor's degree or their master's degree and so forth. But they do have to pay for it, so it causes that additional cost. It's really fascinating to me that your students you're having these teams go, but there's no that incentive isn't necessary.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say it's also a nice way of showing that we are doing something that people are actually
Yeah.
interested in. And yeah, I think it's also a nice way of like this very voluntary based concept so that the people that are participating are really interested in
Hmm.
getting to know more about rivers. So that's quite nice. But sure, we don't have a very mis like maybe a collaboration closer with universities could also ensure like a more long-lasting
Hmm.
um, concept. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Other questions? I've figured out the mute problem, so you should be able to unmute yourself.
I had a question.
Yeah, John.
Funding mechanism. Sounds like you guys are a nonprofit, and funding, at least in America, we're having struggles right now. So I didn't know if you all had any insight on that, on how you all operate.
I cannot speak for the River Collective itself because I'm just organizing one camp, so I don't really know how it works for funding of the whole organization. But for each camp that we host, we find sponsors or collaborators, either with local support organizations. For example, for the camp in Peru, we were working with Conservamos, which is like a local NGO, like the biggest in the country. And also, we also need donations. So, like, we have programs where people can donate, like, fund the spot of one local student, for example.
Hmm.
And so we had that for the Peru trip as well with one organization in Switzerland that was funding the spot of one Peruvian student. So it's a bit of, but we are struggling as well. It's I think it's everywhere in the world. It's really difficult to get funding for projects like this. But it's, yeah, we find a way to make it work.
If I can give a bit of a perspective, because I've organized a few camps and
Yeah.
also now coming from someone that tries to get grants for his own research, the River Collective has been mostly very, very, very volunteer based, which is a huge advantage. And because usually it requires very low budget to organize something, because it mostly just relies on the time and all the effort that's put by the volunteers. So with relatively low money, you can organize a lot of things. This obviously has the disadvantage that none at the River Collective is paid. So there's other than a few volunteer-based fees that they might get through by collaboration if the money's there. So we have only, I think we just opened up the very first position for workshop leader at one of the projects, but it's just going to be a summer gig. So that's, I guess, advantage and disadvantage of being small and non-profit.
Fascinating. It would be fun to do some sort of a meetup, like or like a swap or something like that. I mean that's kind of what you're already doing. So I mean you're going all over the place, but as yet you haven't visited North America. So maybe we can figure out a way to host you guys over here, and then maybe we can join forces somewhere else. But really excited about what you guys are doing. Very inspirational. Frankly, blows my mind. I just think you guys are amazing. I see lots of heads nodding here. I think you guys are doing something really special. And we'll definitely share this video, get the word out about what you guys are doing. Look forward to having continued conversations with you guys going forward. But keep up the good work. You guys are doing something really neat. With
Yes,
that, I
thank
will
you. Thank you
say,
very much.
yeah, thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate you taking an hour of your time to share your really spectacular work and look forward to more conversations in the future. And thank you, everyone who joined today. We appreciate your attendance and keep an eye out for more webinars to come as the year goes on. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Francie. I really appreciate you organizing. It was so great that you got a few of the other voices in as well. They each added kind of like a unique perspective. So that was really nice. I appreciate you taking the effort to plan that. That was great. And as when we discussed, when there's so much overlap. I think the thing that when I watched you guys talk about it, it's like there's a part of me that's like they don't need us. It's like, we're the
Yeah.
professors, right? And we're like, we want to be creating these classes for our students. And then I'm like watching you guys, I'm like, maybe we just need to get out of the way. You guys are doing it for yourselves, which is pretty amazing. But I do want to introduce you to Danielle Perry, who stuck around here. She's someone who I think um, she's part of she's one of the co-PIs on the River Field Studies Network, but she's also involved in a couple other organizations, which I think have in more international scope. So, Danielle, you want to just share a little bit about your involvement in the global protections, for example?
Sure, yeah. So I actually know Veda. I met her maybe 2018 at the European Rivers Summit that happened in Bosnia, in Sarajevo, and so we've been in touch ever since. And I was just in Chile with some of the people who were on that Marañón trip. Um, some people from the Ríos Protegidos movement that's in Chile. Um, so let's see, I'm a professor at Northern Arizona University, but I'm the